Cheryl Boise.
My name is Cheryl Boise. I'm a graduate of the school district, as are my children, and my grandchildren will be in this district. So I've seen Gateway for 70 years. I've also been in Harrisburg. We've discussed the test and we've discussed the standards. We've discussed why we're doing this. And one of the reasons we did this is because we wanted kids to have equal opportunity. I guess my question is, in the east suburbs, when I look at all the districts that are in the east suburbs, we excel, and we always can do better. And children are individuals, and we have to look at them that way. There's a lot of problems with the concept of subgrouping, because then we are not looking at the child for who they are as a learner and a human being. But I guess my question to you, some of you are from other districts in the east, is what else is going on? I'm looking at Penn Hills, who's going down the tubes very fast. We're looking at Woodland Hills, we're looking at McKeesport, we're looking at East Allegheny, we're looking at Wilkinsburg, which is a complete disaster, and they had to move the high school kids out into the city. So I guess, what do we know? If the whole objective to the testing and the standards was to equalize the playing field, so when you go from district to district, we're playing equally, what are our surrounding districts doing? Because what they do impacts us. Because I go to church in Penn Hills. I will tell you, they are leaving that district in droves. They are going to charter schools. They are going to parochial schools. They are going and moving their kids into this city, because Taylor Alderdice is better than Penn Hills High School. So that impacts us. Have you had a conversation with our surrounding districts to find out precisely how they're addressing this issue? Because I'd be curious to see what they're doing. Because at the state level, we may need a different kind of conversation where we're talking about, if you put these things in place, and this is supposed to equalize the playing field, and it's not happening, then we need to go back at the state level and say, why isn't it? And it's not just about money. You know, all the money in the world, it's about what you do with it. So have we had a conversation, because we have assistant superintendents that have been plumb in the city, and we have people here. Because when you talk about the East, I'm thinking we were only one of how many districts. So do we know what everybody else is doing in the way of making an even playing field with our kids? When they come to us, you're testing them. You have to, because who knows how they're coming to us, right?
And that's something, that's a very good question, Cheryl, and it's something that I get asked many times, and I know these two get asked many times down at the intermediate unit. And the question comes, what is Gateway doing? Because when they examine our test scores, not only proficiency rates, but I'm talking growth with PVOS.
Right.
It's a predictor of when a child enters a grade level, whether or not they've made 1 year's worth of growth. And it is significant what our results are compared to others throughout Western Pennsylvania. And it far exceeds what our neighbors are doing and anyone else in Allegheny County.
And clearly, I'm clearly in education, you can always do better. We're all human beings,
Absolutely.
We have frailties, we're gonna mess up, we've got good days and bad days. But I was just curious, when we talk about the east suburbs, we're surrounded by, when you look at the data, and I worked for years looking at data.
Failing schools,
Failing schools.
no doubt about it.
Financially, academically, and a whole lot of
Yep.
failure. And I just wonder how that impacts us and what everybody else is doing to bring it up, because we can work all day, but when that child walks in this school, they bring that failure with them. And maybe the state has to have a different kind of conversation about what we're using.
And understand that whenever a child enters our school system, whether or not it's first grade, second, fifth, sixth, and just for the public to understand this, we analyze this data. When I say we dig deep, far deeper than, Mr. Elms, you can even imagine. I will just tell you that. Myself and Guy Rossi, we're on the board today for over an hour and a half, digging down through data. And here's something that struck us. We have 162 kids that have entered our district last year. They come in. And we had 160 kids leave our district in 1 year. That's how transient a population is in this district. We don't have the data from other districts. But understand that when those 162 that come in, We hit them immediately with assessments. Where are they at? We're taking a pulse. We gotta find out whether or not they're at that grade level standards, 2 or 3 behind, or excelling. Because we immediately have to address those issues. There's not another district around that does that, and I'll be very honest with you.
I know I have to sit down, but, and I will. This is my passion, because I think I get very upset when we don't look at kids as individual learners. And I get very worried about that, because I've heard too much conversation in Harrisburg, sitting through too many conversations about how this is supposed to work, and clearly it isn't working at all. But that gets back to this thing. If the standards and the testing are doing the job they say it's supposed to do, then we should, across the board, have kids coming to you that can go right into those classrooms and pick up where they left off in the other
You
districts.
would hope that
but
all
that's not
districts
happening.
handle curriculum, instruction,
Right.
and assessment the way Gateway does.
But there's too many
And I know we
variables.
have teachers out here that could vouch for it, that we have drilled down into the instruction piece, 82-1, Dr. Chakey, Dr. Rossi, with those learning walks, to ensure that we're seeing optimum instruction. It's not happening in other districts. I'm just
No.
flat out being honest with you.
And it's a scary reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one thing, and I'm a big parents advocate, I know every family, I've worked with preschoolers, I loved your presentation
Mm-hmm.
tonight, and I can tell you now, we look at these kids at 3 and 4-year-olds and say, in 10 years if life doesn't change for you, I know I'll see you on the 6 o'clock news. And there's those variables that play into the factor too. But maybe the state has to look at how we're doing this, because it's not the same. The playing field, no matter what the standard and test is, it's not the same. So maybe we need to go back to the drawing board on that conversation.
If we look at 3 years' worth of data, which we have statistical information about, I mean, there's an excess of close to 400 kids who have entered our school district over the last 3 years. And on the opposite end, probably 350 or 300 that have left. And that's just the nature of what we deal with, come in, come out. But when they're with us, we're going to attack them vigorously and put everything into it that we possibly can.
And that's all you can do. Try the best with what you have.
And then the data will show that maybe that kid will be with us for 1 year and move to another school. That's the reality of it.
All right, conversation for another day.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
It's complex, very much so.
It's not easy.
Mhm.